Welcome to That's What She Said, where we'll spill the tea on women empowerment in the Great Lakes Bay region with your host, Christiana Malacara.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to That's What She Said. Thank you for tuning in and pouring into yourself as we spill the tea on women empowerment each and every week here in the Great Lakes Bay region of Michigan and beyond. I say beyond because there's ways that you can listen outside of the region, which is the podcast format, which can be found on Spotify, Audible, Apple, all those wonderful places that you listen to your podcast 24/7. Most importantly, we are on the radio waves of WSGW 100.5 and 790 Saturday AM at 8 and then Sunday PM at 6 and on Facebook, YouTube, all the social medias. So find us, find our archive, and just listen to these amazing women of the area. They have stories of walks from their walk of life that might be parallel to yours or maybe someone you know. And so that archive lives out there for you to learn from. My name is Christiana Malacara, and I am thrilled that you're here. Every week I start out the episode by just saying a little something that might be on my mind from one That's What She Said day to the next. And when I was kind of reflecting in this past week, I had thought about the pivot, right? That's, I think it was, I was explaining the word to one of my kids and they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, oh, it's when you have to move from one place to another. And they said like a jump. And I was like, yeah. They're like, oh, okay, like a jump. And then I thought about it later. I was like, a pivot feels a little more smoother than a jump. It's intentional. It's a decision that maybe you have to sit on to make. It's something that stays whole and just swiftly moves without being jolted. And that's kind of what I landed on. And a lot of times on That's What She Said, we have a woman across the desk from us, across the mic, and just saying, that they have had to pivot in their life, that they've had to make changes. And sometimes it was a jump. The more I thought about it, sometimes it was even a push to move a different direction. So not too sure where that idea landed when I was writing down these notes and ideas, but two things I thought while I was kind of manifesting, what should I say today, was to listen to your kids. Their perspective is one that is not tainted. It's one that's slightly naive, but definitely something that's worth listening to. And then second of all, why not pivot? Even if it is a push or a jolt or a jump, take a leap and pivot sometimes. You'll be okay. So I have an awesome guest with me, and it's so fun when we get to talk and have very raw conversations on air as we get to know each other. And my guest today is Anesha Stanley. Hi,
Christiana.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
It was so fun to connect via email and not actually talk to each other. And now we're like, we're here. We're doing this thing. So it's just interesting the ways of communication, right? Of how we can all just weave ourselves together. And I had never even spoke with you.
I know. I'm sure we've crossed paths.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. So Anesha, can you introduce yourself and how the community might know you?
Absolutely. So Anesha Stanley, that's my name. How the community might know me from so many different things that I have done and that I'm currently doing. So one being as a baker. I had a bake shop on North Michigan in Old Town like years ago.
Okay.
And that kind of came about because when I was a little girl, I used to read this book called Good Work, Amelia Bedelia, and she baked this cake. And it was so crazy because I felt like I could taste the cake off the pages, right?
Amelia Bedelia
Amelia
book.
Bedelia, yes.
I remember
I
those
love
books.
Amelia Bedelia. That is my girl, okay? I rock with her. And so I read the book, and from there, I was just like, I'm going to be the cake lady when I grow up, not knowing that, I'm materializing that or manifesting that. And so a lot of people know me from Sweet Creations Bake Shop, baking, cake, cupcakes, cookies. It's so funny because nowadays a lot of people see me and they say, hey, you got a cupcake or a cookie on you? And it's like, No, I don't keep those things on me. And then from there, because it's so beautiful that you said it's so timely, the word pivot. My life changed. And so I pivoted from being a bake shop owner and baking, and really stepped into maternal and infant health care. Such a total different
Totally
shift,
different
right?
direction. Yeah.
Definitely. The trajectory is totally different. So now people know me from my work as an advocate, mainly with my two businesses that I have the pleasure and the honor of being able to found. One is the Keys of Hope Foundation. My husband and I created that after our personal experience with pregnancy and infant loss. We lost 5 babies, almost died twice in the process, and I had to pivot in the sense of not thinking about why is this happening to me, but more so, what do you want from me, God? And once I did that and I surrendered that, he gave me the idea of the Keys of Hope Foundation to really support families in the Great Lakes Bay region, to promote the awareness of pregnancy and infant loss. No one's talking about it. We can break the silence concerning that and support these families in our region. And I really just grew a passion for those families. And we've been doing that for a little over 6 years now. So a lot of people know me from that award-winning nonprofit. And then also as a doula. So I have founded Full Circle Doula Services, which is now an agency. So I'm happy about that. But I'm a certified lactation counselor. I am a doula trainer for the state of Michigan. As a doula, I specialize in birth, bereavement, and postpartum doula services. And I'm a childbirth educator. And so a lot of people know me from helping different organizations or healthcare centers get started with creating doula programs like I did here in our very own region. And then as a member of the Doula Advisory Council for the state of Michigan, I am the lead doula in Region 5, which is the Great Lakes Bay region. So a lot of people know me from those different parts of me, of who I am stepping into as far as my calling and my purpose.
So you basically have developed this network of, I'm going to say, sweet tooth and mama bear followers.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It sounds like you have that entrepreneurial instinct in you. So with your foundation, the Keys of Hope Foundation, let's start there.
Okay.
What is it? How do we learn more? And what is the mission?
Yeah, so solely the mission is to support families, to break the silence, and to promote awareness of pregnancy and infant loss, maternal and infant health care in the Great Lakes Bay region. Again, we started that, my husband and I. We launched it on April 24, 2019, which would have been the due date of our 5th angel baby that we lost. And so I like to say that, I gave birth to purpose that day, although it would have been giving birth to a baby. But Keys of Hope came about because I really wanted to support other families who had gone through what my husband and I gone through. No one talks about pregnancy and infant loss. No one talks about how lonely it could be, how isolating it is, how grief can impact your life. No one talks about partner support and how our partners are our husbands. They also grieve as well. Our families are grieving. Maybe our siblings, our parents who were expecting grandchildren, the siblings or our children who was expecting other children, how that impacts the entire family. And so I just really wanted to support those families. I'm in the community. I'm one of those people who see gaps, or God leads me to those things and shows me where the gaps are. And losing a baby is out of order, right? And so no one is talking about it. So when I was going through losing my children and needing support, I didn't have a group. I didn't have my own community of bereaved families that I could go to. There's a support group for if you're an orphan or a widower, but nothing concerning being a bereaved parent. And so God really just put it on my heart. I just wanted to show up for other families. I didn't want them to be alone and struggle in their marriage, like my husband and I did. We just didn't know what to do.
It's a big domino effect of the aftermath.
Absolutely.
If you are willing to unpack this a little further, because I feel like our listeners might need to come from a personal foundation, and then we can, move on a little further into where and how you touch the community and that sense of impact. 5 babies.
Yeah. 5 angels. It's a lot. Sometimes I even have to kind of not necessarily remind myself of what I went through, but moments of, yeah, how did I get here? And I say that because a lot of times when we do our support group meetings, the Lord allows me to just be privy to these amazing, brave moms who trust me and my family or my husband enough to come to our support group meetings. And they sit with us and they share their hearts, their vulnerability, their story. They're transparent about, how they lost their little ones. And to just be trusted with that is not something that I take lightly. And so when I sit there and I'm listening to them share, I'm just in awe of it. And just, I have to remember, how did I get here to help this woman? And then that's when I'm reminded of my own personal experience, my own struggles, and how I too sat in their seat before. And it's very humbling, it's very grounding.
Do you mind sharing a piece of your story?
Sure. As far as what do you want to know more?
Well, I mean, 5 to me, that feels like a lot of hope was in process.
Mhm.
And the words aren't, I'm trying to be gentle, and the words are that there was a loss, and you acknowledged it.
Yeah.
But then you took it a step further.
Yeah.
But during that times, what was those feelings that you needed to acknowledge in that moment?
Wow. So yeah, I think when I think back to it, like losing like our first baby and how it was very traumatic, spending hours on hours in the ER trying to find out what's wrong with me, what's going on, only to be told that it was definitely a confirmed miscarriage. Really like was devastating. It was very heartbreaking. Went home not understanding what was going on, what was happening to me. Did a lot of soul searching, a lot of praying, having to just really try to make sense of things. And sometimes you can't make sense of it, right? And so losing our first baby was very traumatic. Then we went on to get pregnant, and months later, and then I gave birth to my rainbow baby, who will be 11 this month. She's our Christmas
Wow.
baby, actually. And so that was just like a beautiful thing for us to, be parents with a live child, a living child, as they say. Because I knew what it was like to lose a baby before her, we just decided to just wait before trying to conceive again. And we waited at least like 2 years before trying to conceive again. And then we got pregnant again, and I lost that baby. What was going on at that same time? Unfortunately, my aunt passed away like the same day. So that was my dad's only surviving sibling. And so he needed me. And so I kind of like tucked what I was going through, my feelings, my emotions, my own grief of losing my baby. And now also I have grief of losing my aunt now, right? But I have to help my father with planning the funeral and doing all the things. And so I did that.
So you tucked grief away.
So I thought. Yeah, so I thought. And I say that only because it started coming out in other ways, in other areas. And so I was a second grade teacher at that time. And I just noticed how extra cautious I was with my little students. Like I didn't want them to get hurt. I tried to protect them from different things or shield them. I just kept an eye on them, like just looking around for danger, because losing a baby for me, I feel like is I lost control of what was going on. Not losing control in the sense like I got to have my hands on this, but it was out of my control, right? There's nothing that I could have done because it's almost as if, because I'm a believer, right? I'm just going to say it's almost as if like it's okay for the enemy to like just snatch your baby out of your body without warning, without any type of, sign that something is happening. And there's no justice. Like if you and I were to get in an argument right now, it's broadcast. Everyone is listening, they're hearing, they can say who did what, right? There's justice, but there's no justice when there's a miscarriage and it's no warning. And it just come out of nowhere and you just feel helpless.
Did you feel like you needed justice?
I felt like I wanted answers. I wanted to be seen in the sense of someone else to speak up to say, hey, I know what you're feeling. I know what you are going through. And a lot of times women don't, because it's definitely a feeling that I did not even know existed until I felt it. And you literally have to sit in this seat to understand what it feels like to lose a child. I can't really find the words to convey, you have to experience it. And so I just wanted to know that I was not alone and how to navigate this. And I remember telling my husband oftentimes, like, I wish I had someone to gauge me like a thermometer to kind of just let me know where I'm at in this process. Where am I going? What's happening? And so, like I said, with my aunt losing and having that, grief compounded, it came out in other ways. I went on maybe 8 months later, we got pregnant again, and I lost our baby, our son, and I was actually at the doctor's appointment listening to the heartbeat, and it fainted and fainted and fainted. And so we actually heard the heartbeat and heard the baby pass away on the monitors. And so it was just really a lot to experience that. And this time it's the third time. And so that time was one of the roughest for me. And I say that because I really sunk into a place of depression, anxiety. I had the same nightmare every night for a year. It was just like very chaotic, very isolating. I didn't understand grief at the time. I know that, there's 5 stages of grief, but not knowing you can be in all 5 stages at the same time. And one can override more than the others, just in different, seasons, and depending on the triggers and the different things. And so, there's PTSD, which I kind of only contributed or attributed to, military. But PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. So I went through 3 different
something very traumatic.
And so actually, unfortunately, at that time as well, it was so dark and so heavy for me, where I did contemplate suicide at least twice. Thank God that none of them prospered. And now I know why, with the different things that I'm doing.
There's greater purpose.
Yeah, that there's definitely greater purpose.
So around this time, did you seek outside help?
I did. Once I started noticing that something was definitely off, some of the things that I was doing or some of the things that I was feeling were off, I decided to seek outside help. Even though I'm a believer, I talked to my pastors before at that time, and that was fine, but I also needed that practicality, practical wisdom and knowledge and understanding. And so I did. Unfortunately, when I did go to speak to a therapist and she found out, I was a believer and everything, she started to jump churchy on me and just started, I guess she was a minister, and she started just talking in a pastoral way.
But that wasn't what you were looking for.
That's not what I was looking for. And literally I sat there and I kind of not blanked out, but I tuned her out. And I just began to say, God, if you don't do something, I don't know what's going to happen, because I'm sitting here telling you I have a whole suicidal plan.
Yeah.
This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
She never touched on it. And I went and got in my car and I sat and cried and cried and cried and cried out to God, because I barely could pray at that time, because I'm somewhat mad at God. It's like, dude, like, I'm doing all the things you asked me to do, but this keeps happening. What's happening? And so I was really crushed, and I said, you got to do something. And then literally that's when he just began to speak to me about creating like a self-care plan or a routine at night to take care of myself. Started also showing me how the pain is not my fault, but the healing is my responsibility.
Oh,
yeah.
The pain is not your fault,
but the healing is my responsibility. Like, just began to show me that I needed to nurture myself before I could nurture someone else. Even though I was looking forward to nurturing more children, I needed to nurture myself. And it was kind of crazy that I remember something that my grandmother said about my great grandmother. And I had heard this decades ago. My grandmother had just passed away right before I lost my children too. And she's the only other person that I knew in my family who had, besides my mother-in-law, but they both had passed away, that they experienced pregnancy and infant loss or stillbirth.
So you definitely had this sense of isolation.
Definitely.
The people you could relate to were not
here. The people were not here. But I remember her words of just saying how my great grandmother would sit at the table and sit in the dark by herself, or just sit there and she would ask her, like, what are you doing? And she was like, I'm massaging my feelings, and back in like the 1800s and the 20s, they didn't have therapy and things like that, but silence, sitting in peace, meditation, that's what she did. And so I remember that conversation or overhearing that. And I just began to, for myself, take my time, loving on myself, self-care, like getting in the shower. When I get out the shower, don't rush. We try to hurry up and rush. So it's like, no, get your good lotion, put your good lotion on. And I remember I'm seeing it right now. I remember sitting there after taking a bath one day, and I felt led to don't rush, massage your feelings, get your lotion. I got my lotion, started lotioning my body, and I began to just speak over myself and massage my feelings with tears in my eyes.
Wow.
Just sitting there and nurturing myself and just taking care of myself and speaking life over myself, which is something that I felt like I couldn't do.
That's a form
prior
of self-love.
to that. Definitely.
Self-love, which is, I'm imagining, and like you said, a woman that's never been in your shoes can not have the deepest amount of empathy. It's still not enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I am trying to imagine massaging your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And that has to be the most deepest form of self-love there.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, we are going to take a quick break. We have Anesha Stanley with us, and we covered a whole lot of great things, and we're going to dive even a little deeper into the second half as we talk about loving ourselves, and then spreading love, because that is all about everything she does now. So you are tuning into That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara. Don't go too far. Come on back for the second half.
That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara is back. Now let's spill the tea.
And we are back to That's What She Said. I am just without words and full of emotion. We have Anesha Stanley with us for the second half of this episode, and she just was sharing her life experience, a foundation that she's built, a business that she's built, a family that is thriving. And the basis of this is all on willpower, grit, faith, and all of those beautiful things that you've shared in the first half. So for those of you who are tuning in and you're just catching this last half, I highly recommend you find the first half, because you need to know that to get to this part. So Anesha, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for pouring into the community. You are an amazing woman.
Thank you.
You are also a doula.
I am.
What the heck is a doula? I'm sure somebody's listening and say, I know, but what is a doula?
Yeah.
And what do they do? And how do you become one?
Absolutely. So yes, I am the doula, the lead doula in this region.
She is.
I am a woman who serve other women, pretty much just helping women who are pregnant walk through their pregnancy. I help them with just understanding that they have rights, right? As a woman or a birthing person, and just helping them to understand that this is your birth and you can have a self-determined birth without fear. And I really work with them to make sure that they are supported emotionally, they're supported mentally, any information that they need, any resources that they need. I am that investigator for them on their behalf. And I'm also helping them to advocate for themselves, how to find their own voices. Especially, I love working with like first-time moms, because they're very naive. They're a novice to this, right? They don't know what to expect. It's easy for them to just go ahead and listen to like what their healthcare providers are saying and to agree, because they give up that sense of trust to them wholly. However, I help them to understand that you're the one who's carrying this baby. Even though you have a great medical team, this is your birth. How do you envision this? What are your wishes? What do you want? What are your preferences? How do you want the room to look? How do you want to labor? Who do you want to be in this sacred space with you? So I help them envision that and help them bring that to pass during labor and delivery. But I'm supporting them throughout pregnancy, just helping them understand what their options are, but mainly finding their voices and actually asking the questions, what are the benefits of what you're suggesting? Are there any risks? What is my intuition saying? Because women or birthing persons, we know our bodies. We know when we feel something is off, and it's really important to listen to your body, to trust your intuition, and then also knowing that you have a voice and to speak up and to ask those questions. And then you are able to make an informed decision about what it is that is best for you and your family.
Wow. So your job is in addition to their medical services. Like they have a team, they have a doctor, they have a midwife, whatever that might look like.
Yes.
And then we have you.
Yes.
So is this prior, during, post birth? How?
Yeah. So I'm walking with them through birth and postpartum. So I'm supporting them postpartum, helping them not just necessarily that 6 weeks, because we know that postpartum lasts longer, sometimes up to a year or 2 years. And then add another baby on top of that. We're extending that period even more. But also because of my work with Keys of Hope Foundation and being a bereaved mom, I know what it's like to actually support other families when unfortunately they get a prognosis or a diagnosis that the baby might be born still, or I call it born sleeping, or that there's some complications with the pregnancy. So should they lose the baby, as a bereavement doula, I'm able to support them and help that family pivot in that time, which is, really devastating and really something that's surreal again. So having that experience as a bereaved mom, I know how to care for them even more.
I was just going to get to that.
Yeah.
So do you see that your journey, through being a bereaved mother 5 times, it runs parallel at any time? Because, you, in the first half, we explained your first 3 angel babies, and we haven't had the opportunity to get to the next 2, but each story was different. The way you said this, it was a different experience.
Yes, with each one.
So when you're sitting down with other bereaved mothers or mothers dealing with their pregnancy, in pregnancy now, do you see parallel experiences that help you provide a better insight to them?
Absolutely. Given my personal experience, I think that's really one thing that is beautiful about the way that I provide care to my families, is because of me being a mom who has a live baby, but then also having 5 angels and then supporting other moms in the community, being a Black woman in the community, also understanding how, we are more at risk than our white counterparts, Black and brown women are. So I'm able to speak up and to advocate for maternal and infant health and our rights and equity and inclusion in those spaces. And so I do see a lot of parallel there. I do see how God shifted or pivoted, right? That's the word for the day, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yes, I had to pivot, and I see how he was preparing me to be able to support the families. Again, I have an eye for, or my heart is open to hear God show me or to see like the gaps in the communities. And so me becoming a doula during a time when there wasn't a lot of doulas in this region really was to help my bereaved families as they go on and have subsequent pregnancies. And then my own experience with nursing my baby. I really love breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is the best thing ever, best experience. And so I thought about the families who aren't breastfeeding or who need that support and that education, especially in the Black, brown, and Indigenous communities. So I'm seeing how the different things that I was able to do and do successfully, I'm able to support them and educate these families on that. A lot of people who work in the hospital, you have to go to them. They're not coming to the houses and making home visits. And I was like, I'll go to the houses. So I'll go and teach childbirth education. I will go and help a mom with breastfeeding and help her to understand what her challenges are, or be that person to support her. I did that a lot before I even became certified in any of this. I had a lot of young women in the community who look up to me and was like, hey, how are
How do
you
I do
doing these
this?
things?
Yeah.
Yes. Are you
Yeah.
doing this? What can I do? And I became like a big sister to them. And I began to support them, not understanding what was going on or how God was putting it all together even years later.
Did you at the time, did you see that? Because, one, we talk about women empowerment, which you were clearly doing before you even gave it a definition of empowerment.
Right.
So in those early stages, did you see that the pieces were falling together for something bigger, or were you just kind of moving?
I didn't. I just felt like I was just following my heart. Like I'm a nurturer at heart. I'm the only girl from my mom. I have 3 brothers, and so just having that female connection was just like amazing. There's something about me. There's a gift that God has given me where I'm able to like encourage someone, love on them, and nurture them. I just have a way of being able to speak to someone and compassionately care for them. And make them feel seen and loved and heard. And so I did not see how he was working all those things together. I knew something was happening and transpiring during those moments, because I'm like, why are they calling me all the time? Or, why they're reaching out?
Why am I the specialist on this?
Yes. And at first that's how I felt. But then when he just started moving everything together, even after, losing our 4th and our 5th baby, that's when I decided to just say, okay, God, I'm tired. I don't know what you're doing. And instead of looking at why me, I started asking him, what do you want from me? And I think that's really where the growth came from. And once I surrendered to it all, he just began to show me, like, if I took one step, then he'll open the door and provide, or the opportunities that he has for me are there. And he had to raise somebody up, because a lot of times another woman needs to see another woman get up.
Yes.
They need to hear her story. They need to see another woman standing in her power and in her authority. And that doesn't mean that, I have it all together. And that's the beautiful part about it, is that we can heal and grow together. Like, I got your back, you got my back. And I'm reminded of like a story in the Bible with Elizabeth and Mary, how they supported one another, and they were there for each other. They didn't tear each other down. They both were carrying something, not just necessarily children, but we are all as women. We're all called to carry something or give birth to something. And instead of being jealous of one another, it's like, how can I support you in your work? Yes, definitely. And so I see it as that. And so once I surrendered to that and just began to hear God speak to me about, all the different gaps in the community, and getting into doula training, he began to speak to me about full circle. He kept saying full circle, full circle. And I said, what does that mean? And like weeks into my training, he said, I'm returning you to the scene of birth where the enemy thought he took your voice, your power, your resilience, and your children. And you're returning to help families have a self-determined birth without fear. Educated and ready. And it was my full circle. So that's why I named it Full Circle. And then at that time, I learned that my great grandmother was a traveling midwife in the early 1800s, 1900s. And so it's in me. It's in me, right?
It was there the whole time.
It was there the whole time, and I just feel like once I finally surrendered to it and understood that I was chosen. A lot of times it's not easy to be chosen. It's not easy to be the one carrying the oil, not easy to be the one that God has anointed or has placed a gifting within, on a calling. It's just like a beautiful thing, right? And so when I started noticing what he was doing into me, I just stepped up to it. I became even more that stand up to it kind of girl. It's like, okay, well, this is it. This is what we're doing.
What are we
doing? I'm stand up to it. Here we go.
So I had a woman sit across from me, and she had said something along the lines of, you can have the right people in the room, and you can even have the right person to ask the question to. But you have to think about the question you're going to ask, because that's the answer you're going to receive. And so you're saying that you're sitting there in prayer and you're asking questions. But then when you surrendered and said, okay, I'm ready to be this vessel. Tell me, I am now, the tool, give me your hand.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're saying it's not always asking the question. It's just being open to the answer, whatever that may be.
For me, it was like a Sarah moment. I'm sorry, not Sarah, Mary. Be it unto me according to your word. And what I mean by that is everything that I see him doing in me, I learned that I had to become. Like, I wrote a book. And then this process of writing my book called She Shed,
She Shed.
It's called She Shed. Yes.
Okay.
Becoming an active and willing participant in your process of healing and purpose. And so I had to become the book in order to write the book. And a lot of things that I wrote about in the book, I literally had to do, not knowing that God was walking me through a process of forgiveness. Some of it was forgiving myself. And this was during the pandemic.
Is it hard to do?
Forgiving myself? No, I feel like I have learned to, accountability is not necessarily something that should be looked at as a bad word, right? Accountability is looking within yourself and finding out what role did I play in this? How did I contribute to this? And seeing where maybe you made mistakes or what boundaries you didn't put in place.
So a reflection.
Reflection.
So accountability requires reflection.
It requires reflection for sure. And if you can reflect, which I often do, I'm very much a heart checker. My best friends can tell you I'm calling like, hey, okay, this will happen between me and Christiana. What you think? Who, what, when, where, how, and why? But this is whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or not necessarily between me and someone, but I am a heart checker. I go to my husband. I go to my daughter sometimes, even with her, I'm a heart checker. And it's like, you know what? Even though I'm a mom, it's okay for me to say, you know what, Sanaya, I'm sorry. I said this because I was frustrated, or I feel like this, or whatever it is. And it's okay. I think we need to be reflective so that we can learn and we can grow.
Be accountable.
It's okay to be accountable. It's okay to take accountability, to reflect and to learn from yourself, like, where you're going and surrender to that. It's okay to reflect on decisions you made or where you want to go. It's okay to take it as more so not a loss, but a lesson. What lesson am I needing to learn in this season or from this situation?
Not as a loss, not taking the situation as a loss, but more or less a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving forward with like, that was a lesson and now we're going to learn off of this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, if we have a listener who's just tuning in and just saying, I went through a loss or this just happened, what is the next step? What advice would you give her?
And I will also attribute it to not necessarily a loss as in like you lost a person or a baby. A loss can be the loss of a dream as well. A lot of us, we do have dreams, we have goals, but sometimes, there's rejection, there's pivoting moments, and we don't understand. My family and I were talking last night about prayer, why prayer is important, and sometimes God doesn't answer our prayer the way that we want him to, or in the times and the moments that we want him to, and it can kind of feel like defeat, right? It's important to know that, okay, you can look at it as perhaps there's something different that I need to look into. If it's the loss of a dream, just kind of go back and say, what am I really passionate about? And pray about it even more to see, how can I be used? What is it that God has put on the inside of me? What are my gifts? What are my talents? Because we do live in a society right now where it's like, oh, Christiana, she has a podcast and she's doing all the things. I should start a podcast. Well, did God really tell you to do that? Do you have a passion for that? Because you can be doing that, and I just want to say that if anybody is experiencing loss in any way, well, first, if it is the loss of a baby, I want to say I'm sorry, and I give you my condolences. I always acknowledge every bereaved mama. I want you to know that I'm here for you. I'm in your region. Please reach out to me, keysofhopefoundation.com. We have support groups. I have grief bags, grief kits. I want to meet with you. I will take you out for coffee personally because I want to be there for my bereaved mamas. But if there's also someone who is on here who may have had a loss, whether it was a dream or a divorce or loss of a job, whatever it may be, I want you to know that it is okay to sit in that moment and to pivot, because that's what I had to do so many times when my life was changed. Like, what do God want from me? Instead of why me, look at it as, okay, this is happening for me, not necessarily to me.
I like that.
And if it's happening for me, then how can God use this for good? And what do I need to surrender to? What do I need to let go of? Because a lot of times we want things to go a certain way. I know I did. I was okay with baking. And I have said that several times throughout losing my babies and just even through the healing process and listening to other people's stories. And sometimes I have to take a break from Keys of Hope because it's hard. It's devastating to hear. It's not all necessarily lost in pregnancy. And there's a lot of things that can happen afterwards, and so it's kind of hard, but I often have to like remind myself or say to God, like, hey, I was okay with baking, I was fine with baking, but you changed my whole life. But honestly, looking back now or just stepping into even more where I'm at, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to have the story that I do have. I get to meet so many people. I get to support so many people and do some amazing things that I never imagined or ever dreamed of doing.
So let's talk about the here and now. You have a daughter.
I do.
You have a daughter, and you said she'll be
11.
11. Oh, girl, I'm in
I
the same
know.
boat. I'm in the same boat. If I had her here behind the mic, how would she describe you to me?
Oh, wow. She writes me these notes all the time, and she, tells me I'm the best mama ever. Like, she really loves me. I really love her. She would just describe me as someone who is strong. She would say I'm beautiful. She would say I'm funny, a little corny.
Oh, yeah.
She would actually also say that, I keep her on that straight path. Someone who keeps her focused. My husband does as well. But, one thing about her I have learned is to take my ego aside of me being, just because I'm her parent doesn't mean I have to teach her everything in the sense of like, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do that. Because guess what? I've also learned that this is a lesson for me to learn from her. I want to be like her when I grow up because she's resilient, she's brave, she's courageous, she's strong. She is just amazing. I love learning from her. She even shared some things last night about prayer and about how she don't take certain things personal, and she just continues to be this strong young lady. I just want to be like her when I grow up.
It sounds like you just described yourself.
Yes, I think so.
And a 10-year-old will humble you.
Yes. In a good way, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
They always have good intention at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you have this support system. You supply a support system. What is your favorite one thing that you like to do for yourself?
I love self-care. Like Christmas right now, this is my season. And what self-care looks like now is having all the Christmas music playing in the house. I actually intentionally started playing Christmas music November 1st because I lost my son November 1st, on top of losing a nephew that I raised when he was 20 years old. And so for me, it helped me with triggers. But overall, just self-care. I take like weekends away by myself. Get a hotel room somewhere, get my snacks. I purposely do it countdown to Christmas weekend every year for sure.
Oh,
yes.
That's a good idea. I like that.
Yes. And get your robe, get your white robe, or stay at a luxury hotel, like splurge a little bit.
Okay.
Get your white robe,
I'll
turn
be in the
on
room
your
across from you.
with your wings and stuff. Get your food and sit there. But literally just self-care is what leads me, just taking time, slowness and softness and stillness.
I like that. So we have just a minute here. What is one piece of advice that you would give to a woman in the Great Lakes Bay region?
My advice to you is to do not be afraid to reinvent yourself. It is okay to get to know a different version of you and to step into her. And it's a little scary because you may not know who she is right away. But being open to learning and becoming in the process, I think that's going to be one of the most beautiful things that you can do for yourself.
That's amazing. That is great advice. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Anesha Stanley, and that's what she said.